Alright, before we begin, let's take a trip down PlayStation's exclusive memory lane. Insomniac Games has previously only created games for Sony's consoles over 15 years straight. From Spyro the Dragon to Ratchet and Clank, and then their first move to shooters with Resistance, I'd say, and many others would say as well, that they've made some pretty darn famous IPs. Now, in 2013, Insomniac has finally brought another console for their game release into the third perspective with their next IP, Fuse. The story premise of Fuse follows a team of agents known as Ostracized 9. That explains the previous title. In short, they're sent on a mission to stop the evil Raven Corporation from corrupting and selling an alien substance called, well, the title of the game, Fuse. The storyline of Fuse offers a really odd twist at the end that helps gives the game a little more depth. Considering most stories from games in the past, it has its uniqueness and I liked it. The members of Ostracized 9 are Dalton Brooks, a reformed and dark comical mercenary, Nia Devereaux, who happened to work at Raven with her dad, Izzy Sinclair, a smart but individualistic scientist, and Jacob Kimball, a decorated cop with a small temper. The voice acting is phenomenal and really sets a wavy tone that can shift sporadically, but the main characters still stick together. The game can go from slight humor to dead serious in an instant. Don't forget, like I did, that the same developers that made this game made Resistance as well. And I have read that some people didn't think well of the game's tone and thought it was a bit confusing. I enjoyed it, and hey, it's just like real life, but a bit more fun. After reviewing the game's first trailer, I do realize that it was supposed to be a little more funny. I believe they didn't have a true storyline at that time, and after that time, I felt like they've reached a conclusion that they created more of a serious storyline, and comedy got its dial turned down. Overall, the story and characters are well done in Insomniac's fashion, but it's not as comical of a game like we wanted it to be.
I don't care if they got Walt Disney's head in there. It's none of our business. Nuke it and let's bug out. Does not look like Walt Disney.
To go along with comparing Fuse to once Overstrike, it seemed that the art style was going to be realistic with a slight nudge of a cartoony look. The characters and worlds would look like that of Borderlands, but with a full color and higher detail. Yet again, I believe, as time went by, the more serious narrative they concocted would call for a more realistic looking game, like Gears or Resistance. But don't get me wrong, it's a very cool looking game. The sceneries and the lighting of each level look delightful and alluring. And taking a listen, the music of the game is an extra necessary noise, but it doesn't add or take away from the experience. It's a disappointment that the game's art style has leveled, just like the humor, but it looks very good for a generic third-person shooter. And you know, it still doesn't have the uniqueness that Overstrike would have had. Now for the part of the game that could stand out for some, the actual gameplay. After extensively playing, I could say that Fuse is mainly a co-op game, but you could still run it solo. With that, you could actually switch between all four characters instantly by holding select and hitting the corresponding face button. Each playable character has their own unique and was referred to as Xenotech weapon. Dalton has the mag shield, which is an energy shield that can shoot a wave of itself for a short distance, and he also has a secondary grenade that just deploys the same shield in a fixed place. Nia has the warp rifle that can create small quick singularities and can shoot progressively faster depending on how long you hold down the trigger. She also has a very helpful and fun to use cloaking device. Izzy can throw a medical beacon that heals and even revives down characters. Her weapon of choice is a scattergun, and it can crystallize enemies and explode them, harming others nearby. Of course, last but not least, Jacob has a no need to reload crossbow called the Arc Shot. He can then charge up the bolts that have been stuck into enemies to hurt them further or damage others nearby. Fuse features a leveling up system that is tied with each character individually. After leveling up, the game gives you a skill point that you can then use to unlock an ability or upgrade one. The game also has an economy called Fuse Credits that lets players earn money and then purchase team member perks and skins with. The game also contains a co-op multiplayer mode similar to Mass Effect 3, but feels like its own and actually gives you 4 characters even when running it on solo. The content present in Fuse seems a bit light compared to other shooters, but it balances that out with the difficulty in more ways than one. But it's not always a good one. For one thing, Fuse is not an easy solo game, for 2 reasons. It's legit difficult, and the friendly AI can be really derp-a-herp sometimes. too many times. I mean, I really have no problem with playing a game that's just hard in regular play, even if it means throwing the controller 20 times just to beat it. That's fine, but it's not fine when the other characters seem to let you bleed out and constantly separate from you when you need them the most. Worst part of the gameplay by far. So to remedy that, get some friends together online because you can't do split screen, and then you'll have a good challenging time. Lastly, Fuse has very fluid gameplay and easy to get controls. The cover system and overall gameplay feel is better than that of Mass Effect and even Gears of War. Sadly, it can't even direct the other characters on where to go, which could have made this game a little bit better. Over my course of renting and playing this game, I've skimmed a couple reviews, and I have to say the average aggregation of 65% falls a bit short of my final tally. Fuse is a very fun co-op game, and has some really great parts and some disappointments. One more thing to add, the game did suffer a few glitches that were very bizarre and even funny. Like, one time Dalton didn't even have a spacesuit on in space when the other characters did. What the heck? Overall, Fuse is, unfortunately, another generic shooter, but with some unique guns and a very fluid game feel. The art style and story are not what we expected from E3 2011, but it's still a well-made, decent game. If you and some friends are still looking into this game, wait to price match it at Walmart or Best Buy. Fuse is a decent co-op game and an okay solo shooter. Okay, for this game I'm going to use a more familiar scoring system. Out of 5 eggs, Fuse earns 3. Let me know if I should keep using this or go back to my original 6 egg system. Thanks for watching.
We're all here, and we have a lead on the stolen fuse. We'll have to be quick before it goes cold.
I'll have a helo at your position within the hour.